Hello, BookTube. Sorry for the blue shadow light that's, shadowing my face. But I have my computer on because the video I'm making right now is dependent on me having my computer on. Now, if I can ever figure out how to work my tablet while also filming, that would be great, but I can't, so. Anyway. So, for Christmas, I received 2 Amazon gift cards. One of which is for $50, and the other one I'm not entirely sure how much is on it. I'll do a second video with that one later, but for now we'll just focus on the one for $50. So I'm basically going to go shopping with you, or you're going to go shopping with me. So first things first, I'm going to be buying me some socks because I really need some socks. The ones I have are starting to get ragged and it's time to buy some new socks. But there will be enough money for at least a book or two. And if I slightly go over, it doesn't matter. I'm okay with that. So there are about 20 some odd books on here. So I'm not going to get too in depth. I'm just going to somewhat talk about them rather than like a full blurb and all of that. So first is Lie With Me by Phillippe Besson and translated by Molly Ringwald. I first learned about this book from Steve Donahue's channel. He hauled it, I think, in either late spring or early summer of last year, and he quite liked it. I made it his best translations of the year list. And I read the preview on Amazon, and I quite liked what I read, so definitely a possibility. The next book is The Gay Metropolis, The Landmark History of Gay Life in America by Charles Kaiser. I think the paperback came out like a few months ago, and again I learned about it from Steve Donahue's channel. This one I'm not as enthusiastic about. I read the preview and I didn't quite like it, so I'm not entirely sure if this is one I necessarily want, or if I should probably either check my library and see if they have it or interlibrary loan it. Next is The Sparsholt Affair by Alan Hollinghurst. This made the rounds of BookTube going on 2 years ago now. It's the latest book by Alan Hollinghurst, and I didn't particularly care for it when I read it the first time. Although I checked it out at the library, and oftentimes when I do check books out from the library, I am rather less patient with them. That I'm far more prone to bailing on them than I am if I actually own them. And an argument, I think, for why I kind of still want to buy it is I do have the rest of Alan Hollinghurst's books. I have pretty much all of them except for this one. And I do want to read all of his works either this year or next year. Probably this year, but I don't know. Next is Pure Pastel, Contemporary Works by Today's Top Artists by Hevener, who is the longtime editor-in-chief of the Pastel Journal. And I also think she's the editor-in-chief of the Artist magazine. This is a book on pastels, which, if you've been following me for a while, you will know I'm a huge lover of pastels. I dabble in pastels. I paint with pastels. And I am kind of wanting a bit more. I'm in a more of a pastel kick right now, so I'm seriously tempted to buy more pastel books. Even though in this case I think it's more, she writes like an introduction in each chapter, and then various artists who are featured basically have little paragraphs where they talk about the works featured. But still, it is gorgeous and it is rather decently priced. So that is definitely a top contender, I think. Next is Fire and Blood, the European Civil War, 1914 to 1945, by Enzo Traverso. This one kind of snuck up on me. I was just browsing Amazon and came upon Traverso's Left-Wing Melancholia. I think that's the title. Or is it Nostalgia? One of the two. And that intrigued me, and then I looked to see what else he had, and found Fire and Blood, and read a bit from the previews, and really like what I've read. So, really, definitely a book I'm circling around buying. Although whether I want to buy it through Amazon or through Libris, I don't know, because, yeah, I could probably like $10 less through a Libris. So, next we have Scar Knight by Alan Campbell. I've been circling this book for a while. I found it on Libris and then added it here on Amazon. I mean, honestly, I think if I wanted to get it, I would probably like buy the entire series on Libris. Next is The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I've heard good things about this book. So it's definitely a possibility. I was thinking of buying it, or not buying it, checking it out at the library when it became available, but I could hop on it now and check and see what it's about. Rotherweird by Andrew Caldecott. I think Steve Donahue praised it a few months ago when he hauled it. One of the very few science fiction and fantasy books he does haul. He rarely gets science fiction and fantasy books in, and he quite, I think, enjoyed it. So that's a plus in its column. But I might wait for the paperback. And plus there's only like one in stock right now, so. And then there's The Grand Arc by Richard Codry, which I'm not entirely sure why it's on here. I think I might have been just, aiming for something else, and I got that instead. Wild Sea, A History of the Southern Ocean by Joy McCann. This book is definitely one I've been circling for quite some time. And I read the preview about when it came out and absolutely loved it. That opening paragraphs are amazing. So definitely one I am seriously considering buying. These Truths, A History of the United States by Joe Lepore. Again, I loved because I read it when I want to say late in 2018, and quite liked it. And it would definitely be a book I want in my history collection, which I think I'm having the urge to expand my history holdings at the expense of most of the other genres. Next we have Pagans, The End of Traditional Religion and the Rise of Christianity by James L. O'Donnell. Again, this one, I don't know too much about it. It's more for a potential writing project I have in mind that kind of features this as a topic, or I get an idea, and I kind of want to do some research and mine history and draw inspiration and all of that, but would be interested to read it. I would probably put Ronald Hutton's Pagan Britain on here, but I think it's kind of gone out of print at the moment, so I might have to go hunt that one down on Libris. Iran, A Modern History by Abbas Amanat. I've heard some good things about this book, and definitely one I've been circling for a while. Next, we have Cook's Illustrated Baking Book by America's Test Kitchen, which should really be Cook's Illustrated, but yeah. Anyway, so in addition to collecting books and Pastel, I'm also occasionally I have the want to buy cookbooks and collect cookbooks, and occasionally actually try the recipes in those cookbooks. And I checked out this baking book from the library last year and rather enjoyed it. There are some really good recipes that I do want to try. And as it's been some years when I talked about like whether buying or like whether you should buy cookbooks or check them out at the library is if there are recipes you want to save. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, of course, you can like take pictures of with your phone, but would you necessarily get all the images, or like perfect save of the recipe, or do you manually write them out, or do you just buy the book? Next, we have Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. This made the rounds of BookTube, or the science fiction fantasy side of BookTube, about 2 years ago when it first came out. I read it. I think I was definitely more the fact that I did check out the library, that I was not as patient with it as I would be had I actually owned it. It's also, I think, rather similar to a book I read recently that I've been talking about quite recently and really enjoyed it. So it probably would be a book that might consider buying. Next, we have Ancient Syria, A 3,000-Year History by Trevor Bryce. I love this book. I absolutely love this book. I interlibrary loaned it a year or two ago and just positively adored it, and I really, really want it in my collection. Next, we have Imperial Twilight, The Opium War and the End of China's Last Golden Age by Stephen R. Platt. I am on a bit of a China history kick right now, I think, and definitely a book I really want. Next, we have Walk the Wild with Me by Rachel Atwood. This is a relatively new release, and I've heard some good things about it, and it does sound interesting. Next, we have Still the Sky by Megan E. O'Keefe. This is very much similar to the book by Ellen Campbell, Scar Night, where I've been circling it for a while since I kind of stumbled upon it through Penguin Random House's website. But again, I'm kind of leaning maybe more towards, if I want to, buying the whole series through a Libris than the first book here on Amazon. Also, doesn't help that there's very few copies left. Next is The Stone in the Skull by Elizabeth Bear. This is one of those books that I've tried several times to read, and I've bounced off both times. So I don't know if maybe buying it and giving it another go will be helpful, or if this is just me adding it for some odd reason, and I really should clear this book and those books like it out of my wish list. Also have Dark Moon, a novel by David Gemmell, who is a writer I've been meaning to read for a while and haven't yet to get around to it. And finally, The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. Again, Theodora Goss is a writer I've been meaning to read for a while and just haven't gotten around to it. And maybe now's the time to buy one of her books, since I don't think there are any available in the library. So, with that said, I'm thinking I'm going to knock out the Stone in the Skull, Still the Sky, Scar Knight, whenever I get to it. Rotherweird, Metropolis, might save the Sparsholt affair, knock you out, maybe keep you, knock you out. Okay, I think I'm going to because I can get you easy, so you're out. Okay, so I think all of that said, I'm going to decide between ancient Syria, Iran, These Truths, Wild Sea, Pure Pastel, and Lie With Me. I think those are the three, those are the ones I'll decide from, and I will do a haul video at the end of the month to let you know which book I selected. Until then, thank you, BookTube, and have a great day.